have you checked your blood sugar lately, and felt that quiet dread creeping in the moment you saw the number? Have you sat in your doctor's office, looked at your results, and thought to yourself, is this ever going to get better? Or, am I just going to be on these pills for the rest of my life? If that thought has ever crossed your mind, you are exactly who this video is for. And I need you to stay with me, because today, we are going to dive into a topic that most people dealing with blood sugar issues have never once been told about. You've probably asked yourself, why isn't anyone prescribing this? Not your doctor, not your pharmacist, not anyone. So stay with me. Because what I am about to share with you today, most people never get to hear it. Here is the question nobody is asking out loud. When was the last time your doctor actually sat down with you and had a real conversation about food? Not a printed handout. Not a quick mention on your way out the door. A real, honest conversation about specific foods that science has actually studied. Foods that have been shown to help your body manage blood sugar in ways most people never hear about. If you are thinking, that has never happened, then you already know there is a gap. And today, we are going to fill it. Now, here is where it gets interesting. There are 6 foods. 6 simple, affordable, everyday foods that researchers have connected to real, measurable improvements in blood sugar control. One of them is a spice you almost certainly already own. Another is an ancient seed that traditional healers used for over 2,000 years, and that modern science is only now beginning to catch up with. One is a liquid that most people already have sitting in their kitchen, but use far too sparingly, when the research actually suggests they should be doing the opposite. And the last one on this list, most people have never once connected it to blood sugar at all. When you hear it, you are going to wonder why nobody told you sooner. We will get to all 6 today. But first, I need to give you 30 seconds of honesty. Because here is what nobody in a white coat will say to your face. The medical system is very good at managing conditions. It is not always designed to fix them. And when something simple, something you can buy at any grocery store, starts showing real results in research labs, it tends to get very little attention. Because nobody makes money from telling you to open your kitchen cabinet. That one line right there should make you just a little bit angry. And if it does, good. That anger means you are paying attention. Now, I know that for many of you, this is not just a number on a page. Some of you feel it in your feet, that quiet tingling you push to the back of your mind and try not to think about too late at night. Some of you have sat in a dim room and quietly worried about your eyes. That fear is real. I am not going to pretend it isn't. But here is what is also real. You have not been given the full picture yet. And the moment you finish this video, that changes. These are not miracles. They are mechanisms. And the science behind them is honestly more fascinating than anything you have ever seen in a pill commercial. Each one works differently. Each one has a specific reason why it helps. And by the time we are done today, you are going to understand your own body in a way your last 3 doctor visits never gave you. So let us start with the first one. It is sitting in most kitchens right now. You have probably used it this week without thinking twice. And when I tell you what the research actually says about it, you are going to be genuinely surprised that nobody mentioned this sooner. Let us get into it. So let me tell you about this first food. It is something warm. Something familiar. Something that has probably been in your home for years, maybe even decades. Something you have sprinkled onto food without a single thought about what it might actually be doing inside your body. Some of you are already smiling right now, because you think you know what it is. And if you are thinking of a spice, you are exactly right. It is cinnamon. And before you move on, I need you to hear me out. Because most people hear that word and think they already know the story. They don't. Not even close. Here is what is actually happening inside your body when blood sugar becomes a problem. Your cells have something called insulin receptors. Think of them like tiny doors. When insulin knocks on those doors, they are supposed to open, and let sugar move out of your blood and into your cells, where it belongs. But over time, in many people, those doors get stiff. They stop responding the way they should. Insulin keeps knocking, and nothing happens. The sugar stays in your blood. It keeps circulating. And that is quietly where the damage begins. Now here is the part that should genuinely stop you. Certain natural compounds found in cinnamon have been shown in studies to help those doors open again. Not by flooding your body with more insulin, but by making your body more sensitive to the insulin it already produces. More receptive. More responsive. And for anyone who has been watching that blood sugar number refuse to budge, that distinction matters enormously. A study published in the journal Diabetes Care found that people with type 2 diabetes who added cinnamon to their daily routine saw real, measurable reductions in fasting blood sugar. Not after months of waiting. After just 40 days. Now I want you to sit with that for a moment. 40 days from now, you could be looking at a number you have not seen in years. And the same study also found improvements in cholesterol and triglyceride levels at the same time. Blood sugar and your heart. Two serious concerns. One thing. Already sitting in most kitchens. And most doctors have never once brought it up. Here is something almost nobody tells you, and this part really matters. Not all cinnamon is the same. The dark, reddish-brown powder in most supermarket jars is called cassia cinnamon. It is cheap, it is common, and it is what most of us have used our whole lives. But cassia contains high levels of a compound called coumarin. And when you are taking cinnamon consistently, in meaningful daily amounts, coumarin can put real stress on your liver over time. The type researchers actually recommend is called Ceylon cinnamon. Sometimes called true cinnamon. It is lighter in color, slightly more delicate, and it contains almost no coumarin. You can find it at most health food stores and online. It costs a little more. But if you are going to do this seriously, Ceylon is the one that makes sense. Now, how do you actually use it? The research that produced real results used roughly 1 to 2 teaspoons per day. And the most effective method is beautifully simple. Mix half a teaspoon into a small glass of warm water and drink it about 15 minutes before your largest meal of the day. Before the food. Before the sugar from that meal even enters your bloodstream. That timing is not a small detail. That timing is actually part of why it works. If warm water is not your thing, stirring it into your morning tea or coffee works well too. But before a meal, that is the window you want. Here is what I love most about this. It does not ask you to overhaul your life. It does not ask you to give something up. It simply asks you to add one small, easy thing to a routine you already have. Now, and this part matters, cinnamon works alongside your medication. Not instead of it. Keep taking exactly what your doctor has prescribed. Do not change that on your own. What this may do, over time, is make your body more receptive and more efficient, so that everything you are already doing starts working just a little bit better. And that shift, small as it sounds, is the kind of thing that can show up in your next blood test in a way that quietly surprises everyone in that room. Including your doctor. So yes. It is cinnamon. Ordinary, familiar, overlooked cinnamon. But now you know something about it that most people never will. And here is the thing, what comes next on this list is even older. Even more ignored. It is a tiny seed with a 2,000-year history in traditional medicine, a growing body of modern research behind it, and almost zero chance your doctor has ever mentioned it. Stay right where you are. Because this next one is going to genuinely catch you off guard. For over 2,000 years, healers in India, Egypt, and across the Middle East were giving their patients something for blood sugar problems. Something simple. Something natural. Something that grew right from the ground. And it worked well enough that generation after generation kept passing the knowledge forward. 2,000 years of consistent human use. And yet, if you walked into your doctor's office today and asked about it, there is a very good chance they would look at you blankly. That gap, between 2,000 years of use and a single blank look from a modern physician, is exactly what we need to talk about. Because the seed they were using back then is called fenugreek. And what science is now finding about it, was worth knowing all along. Here is the first reason fenugreek is so fascinating for blood sugar. Inside these small, Golden seeds is a type of soluble fiber that forms a thick, slow-moving gel inside your digestive system when you eat it. And that gel physically slows down how fast your stomach empties food into your intestines. Which means the sugar from your meal enters your bloodstream more slowly. More gradually. Instead of a sharp spike, you get a gentle rise. And for anyone managing blood sugar, the difference between a spike and a gentle rise is the difference between a bad day and a good one. It really is that significant. But here is where it gets even more remarkable. And I want you to really hear this part. Fenugreek seeds also contain a unique compound that appears to directly stimulate the pancreas to produce more insulin, but only when blood sugar is actually elevated. Not all the time. Only when your body genuinely needs it. Think about what that means for a moment. Imagine you have been struggling with this for years. Watching numbers. Worrying. Adjusting. And here is something that may actually help your body respond at exactly the right moment, naturally, without forcing anything it should not be doing. It is not overwhelming your system. It is nudging it to respond better when the moment calls for it. Several human studies have backed this up. One found that people with type 2 diabetes who took fenugreek seed powder daily for 2 months saw their fasting blood sugar drop significantly. Another found meaningful improvements in glucose tolerance. Results that most people will never hear about. From something that costs less than a cup of coffee. Now here is the detail that separates people who get real results from people who don't. How you prepare fenugreek matters enormously. The most effective method shown in research is soaking the seeds overnight in water. Just 1 tablespoon of seeds in a small glass of water. Leave them overnight. In the morning, drink the soaking water first, then chew the softened seeds. Do this on an empty stomach, before breakfast. That combination, the water and the seeds together, is where the strongest research points. Some people find the taste slightly bitter at first. That fades within a few days. And for most people, within a week or 2, it simply becomes part of the morning. As natural and automatic as making tea. If soaking seeds genuinely does not fit your routine, fenugreek capsules are widely available and still deliver real benefit. But if you can manage the soaked seed method, that is the version worth starting with. Now, a quick but important note before we move on. Fenugreek can interact with blood-thinning medications. And because it does lower blood sugar, if you are already on diabetes medication, that combination is worth a conversation with your doctor before you begin. And here is how I would encourage you to think about that conversation. You are not going in to ask for permission. You are walking in with something they probably never brought up themselves. Mention it. Then watch their reaction. Because it will tell you quite a lot. Here is what I want you to carry forward from this. Fenugreek is not complicated. It is not exotic. It is not dangerous. It is a seed with a longer history of human use than almost any prescription currently sitting in your medicine cabinet. The fact that it has not made it into mainstream medical conversations is not a reflection of whether it works. It is a reflection of how slow the system is to look sideways. And you, by watching this right now, are already looking sideways. Which means you are already ahead of most people who will never hear this information at all. Before we move on to the next one, if you are finding this kind of decoded health information helpful, please take a second to like and share this video with someone who needs to see it. Your feedback genuinely means a lot, so drop a comment below with your thoughts or any questions you have. And if you want to make sure you never miss our future sessions, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon right now. But stay with me. Because the next food on this list is something I guarantee you have seen before. You may even have it in your home right now. It comes in a bottle. It smells sharp. And most people who own it have absolutely no idea they have been using it the wrong way, this entire time. This next one is one of my favorites. And once you hear it, you will not look at your kitchen cabinet the same way again. There is a bottle in a lot of kitchens right now. It is usually pushed to the back of the cupboard. Maybe behind the olive oil. Maybe next to the condiments nobody uses anymore. It has a sharp smell. A slightly cloudy look, if you buy the right kind. And most people who own it either use a tiny splash in a salad dressing once a month, or they bought it with good intentions and have barely touched it since. That bottle is apple cider vinegar. And I want to tell you something about it today that is going to completely change how you think about it. Because the way most people use apple cider vinegar, and the way research suggests you should be using it for blood sugar, are almost completely opposite. Let me explain what is actually happening in your body after you eat a meal. The moment food enters your stomach, your digestive system starts breaking it down. Carbohydrates get converted into glucose. That glucose moves into your bloodstream. And your blood sugar rises. How fast it rises, and how high it goes, depends on a lot of things. What you ate. How much. How quickly your body processes it. Now here is what apple cider vinegar does inside that process. It slows down an enzyme in your digestive system, the one responsible for breaking carbohydrates into sugar. When that enzyme slows down, sugar enters your blood more gradually. Which means your blood sugar spike after a meal is lower and slower than it would have been without it. Less of a spike. Less of a crash. Less of that heavy, foggy, tired feeling that so many people experience after eating. And I know that feeling. That afternoon heaviness after a meal where you just want to sit down and not move. That is not laziness. That is your blood sugar doing something it should not be doing. And this is one of the simplest ways to start changing it. A study published in the journal Diabetes Care found that people who took apple cider vinegar before a high-carb meal had significantly lower blood sugar responses compared to those who did not. Another study found that taking it at bedtime helped reduce fasting blood sugar levels by morning. Think about that for a second. Something you take before you go to sleep, quietly working through the night, so that the number you see when you wake up and test yourself, is lower than it would have been otherwise. That is not a small thing. For anyone who has ever woken up, checked their blood sugar first thing in the morning, and felt that familiar disappointment before the day has even started, that bedtime detail is worth paying very close attention to. Now here is the part that almost nobody talks about. And this is exactly where most people are getting it wrong. The dose matters. The timing matters. And the form matters. The research that showed real results used 1 to 2 tablespoons, diluted in a full glass of water, taken just before a meal. Not during. Not after. Before, 1 to 2 tablespoons, full glass of water before the meal. That is the version the research actually used. And that timing, just like with cinnamon, gives it the window it needs to work before your food even begins breaking down. The dilution is not optional. Apple cider vinegar is acidic enough that drinking it straight, repeatedly, can damage the enamel on your teeth and irritate your throat over time. Always dilute it. Always. Now, which type should you buy? This matters more than most people realize. You want raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar, with something called the mother. The mother is that slightly cloudy, stringy sediment you see floating at the bottom of the bottle. That cloudiness is not a sign that something is wrong. It is actually where much of the beneficial content lives. The clear, filtered versions you find cheaply on most supermarket shelves have had the mother removed. They are cheaper. They are also significantly less useful for this purpose. Look for the words raw, unfiltered, and with the mother on the label. Shake the bottle gently before you pour. And store it in a cool, dark place. One important caution before we move forward. Because apple cider vinegar does lower blood sugar, if you are already taking insulin or other glucose-lowering medications, the combination can occasionally push blood sugar lower than intended. Start with just 1 teaspoon diluted in water and see how your body responds, before working up to a full tablespoon. And let your doctor know you are adding this to your routine. That information belongs in your medical record. Honestly, your doctor knowing what is actually working in your body is just good medicine. It helps them help you better. So there it is. Something sharp. Something simple. Something most people own, but almost nobody is using correctly. Apple cider vinegar. Sitting at the back of your cupboard. Possibly for years. Waiting to be used the right way. And now you know how. But here is something I want you to hold on to as we move into the second half of this list. The first three foods we have covered, cinnamon, fenugreek, apple cider vinegar, they all have one thing in common. They are familiar enough that most people have at least heard of them. What is coming next is different. The next foods on this list are the ones that even health-conscious people rarely know about. One of them is being called nature's metformin by researchers. The other has been used across entire continents for centuries, and is almost completely invisible in Western medicine. If you thought the first half of this list was surprising, stay right where you are. Because we are just getting to the good part. Most health videos stop here. Most articles about natural blood sugar support cover the familiar ones, cinnamon, vinegar, maybe fenugreek, and then they stop. Because what comes next requires stepping a little further from the comfortable and the commonly known. And that is exactly where we are going right now. Because the next two foods on this list are the ones that researchers are genuinely excited about. The ones quietly showing up in scientific literature in ways that should be making far more noise than they are. So let us get into them. Let us start with berberine. And I need you to pay very close attention here. Because out of everything we have discussed today, this may be the most significant. Berberine is a natural compound found in several plants, including barberry, golden seal, and tree turmeric. It has been used in traditional Chinese and Ayurvedic medicine for centuries. But it is what modern science has found about it that is truly remarkable. A landmark study published in the journal Metabolism compared berberine directly against metformin. Metformin, one of the most widely prescribed diabetes medications in the world. A drug that millions of people take every single day. And the results of that study found that berberine was just as effective as metformin at lowering blood sugar levels. Not almost as effective. Not close. Equally effective. In a head-to-head clinical trial. Let that sink in for a moment. Because if a pharmaceutical company had produced those results for a new drug, it would have been front-page news. But because it is a plant compound that nobody can patent, and nobody can profit from exclusively, most doctors have never read that study. And most patients have never heard of berberine at all. So how does it actually work? Berberine activates something inside your cells called AMPK. Think of AMPK as a master switch for your metabolism. When that switch is turned on, your cells become dramatically better at absorbing glucose from your blood. Your liver slows down its production of excess sugar. Your insulin sensitivity improves. Multiple mechanisms. All working at the same time. All from one compound. And the research behind it is not thin. There are now hundreds of studies on berberine and blood sugar, many of them conducted on humans, many of them showing consistent, meaningful results. This is not fringe science. This is not a wellness trend. This is a compound with a genuinely impressive body of evidence behind it, that somehow never made it into your doctor's conversation. Berberine is widely available as a supplement in capsule form. The dose used in most research that showed significant results was 500 milligrams, taken 2 to 3 times per day, with meals. Not on an empty stomach. With food. That timing helps reduce the mild digestive discomfort some people notice when they first start. And that discomfort, if it happens at all, usually settles within the first week or two. Now, one critical note before we move on. Berberine is one of the most powerful natural compounds on this entire list. If you are on diabetes medication, please speak to your doctor before adding it. Not as a formality. Because the blood sugar lowering effect is real and strong enough that combining it with medication without awareness could push your levels too low. This one genuinely requires that conversation first. Now, the second food in this section has a different kind of story. Less dramatic in its science, perhaps. But remarkable in a completely different way. It is called bitter melon. And while berberine is the headline discovery of this segment, bitter melon is the one that puts that headline in perspective. Because bitter melon does not have one mechanism. It has 3. One compound in it acts similarly to insulin. Another helps block the absorption of sugar in the intestine. A third appears to help cells take up glucose more effectively. 3 separate pathways. One vegetable. Working quietly together. And here is the detail that has always struck me about this particular food. The populations that have used bitter melon as a regular part of their traditional diet for generations have historically had some of the lowest rates of type 2 diabetes in the world. Correlation is not causation, there are many factors at play. But when a food carries that kind of track record, across multiple cultures and multiple centuries, it deserves far more attention than Western medicine has given it. And right now, it is receiving almost none. If you have ever been to an Asian or Caribbean grocery store, you may have seen it without knowing what it was. It looks like a deeply ridged, bumpy cucumber. Dark green. Unlike anything most Western kitchens have ever worked with. And the name is honest, it is genuinely bitter. The most studied method of use is half a cup of fresh bitter melon juice taken on an empty stomach in the morning. If fresh bitter melon is difficult to find in your area, it is also widely available in capsule form at most health food stores. And as with everything on this list, if you are on blood sugar medication, please let your doctor know before you begin. So there they are. 2 foods most people watching this have never seriously considered. One backed by a clinical trial that should have changed the conversation entirely. The other backed by centuries of traditional use across cultures that understood something about this plant long before any laboratory confirmed it. Both largely invisible in mainstream medical advice. Both available to you right now. And here is what I want you to carry into the final section of this video. Everything we have covered today, cinnamon, fenugreek, apple cider vinegar, berberine, bitter melon, none of them work in isolation as well as they work together. And the last food on this list is the one that most people would never, in a million years, connect to blood sugar. When you hear the reason why it works, everything else we have talked about today is going to click into place in a way you did not expect. Stay with me. We are almost there. We have made it to the last food on this list. And I want to take just a moment before I tell you what it is. Think about everything you have learned today. A spice that helps your cells respond to insulin better. A seed used by healers for 2,000 years. A sharp liquid most people own but nobody uses correctly. A plant compound that matched a prescription drug in a clinical trial. A bitter vegetable with 3 separate blood sugar mechanisms built right into it. 5 foods. 5 different ways of helping your body do something it has been struggling to do. And now there is one more. The one I saved for last. Not because it is the most dramatic, but because it is the most surprising. And because the reason it works is unlike anything else on this list. The last food is okra. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Okra? That slimy vegetable? The one that divides every dinner table right down the middle, between the people who love it and the people who will not go near it? Yes. That one. And I understand the reaction completely. Okra is one of those foods that people have very strong feelings about. But here is what almost nobody knows. That quality that makes some people push it to the side of their plate, that thick, slightly sticky, gel-like texture, is not a flaw. It is not something to cook away or apologize for. It is actually the most important thing about okra from a blood sugar perspective. And once you understand what that gel is doing inside your digestive system, you are going to look at okra in a completely different way. That sticky substance inside okra is called mucilage. It is a thick, soluble fiber that behaves in a fascinating way once it enters your digestive tract. When you eat okra, that mucilage forms a coating along the walls of your intestines. And as food passes through, sugar molecules literally get trapped in that coating. They bind to it. Which means they cannot be absorbed into your bloodstream as quickly, or as completely, as they otherwise would be. Your body still gets energy from what you eat. But the sugar arrives more slowly. More gently. Like a door that has been quietly narrowed, so that only so much can pass through at once. Studies have confirmed this effect. Research published in the Journal of Pharmacy and Bioallied Sciences found that okra helped reduce blood sugar levels significantly. And separate research has shown that the mucilage in okra can inhibit an enzyme called alpha-glucosidase, which is the same enzyme that certain diabetes medications target. The same enzyme. A vegetable and a prescription medication, working through the same door. But the okra story does not stop at blood sugar. And this is where it connects to everything else on this list. Okra is also rich in magnesium. And magnesium plays a direct role in how well insulin functions in your body. Studies have found that people with type 2 diabetes are significantly more likely to have low magnesium levels than people without it. Low magnesium makes insulin resistance worse. And replenishing it through food rather than supplements is one of the quietest and most overlooked strategies in blood sugar management. Okra delivers both the fiber mechanism and the magnesium support in a single serving. 2 pathways. 1 vegetable. That combination is rare. And that is exactly why it belongs at the end of this list. Now, how do you actually use it? The most effective preparation for blood sugar purposes is something called okra water. Take 2 or 3 medium-sized okra pods. Cut off the tips and the tails. Make a small slit down the side of each one. Place them in a glass of room-temperature water overnight. In the morning, remove the pods, and drink the water on an empty stomach before breakfast. What happens overnight is that the mucilage slowly leaches out of the pods and into the water. You are essentially drinking a concentrated preparation of that sticky fiber, before any food enters your system. Before the sugar from your breakfast even has a chance to arrive. Several small studies have shown meaningful reductions in fasting blood sugar with this method used consistently. It is simple. It costs almost nothing. And it takes about 30 seconds to prepare the night before. If okra water is not something you want to try, simply adding fresh or frozen okra to your regular meals delivers real benefit too. Roasted okra loses much of the sliminess that puts people off, and becomes surprisingly crisp and flavorful. And frozen okra is available year-round in most supermarkets at very low cost. This is not an exotic ingredient that requires a special trip. It is sitting in the frozen vegetable aisle right now. Waiting. So there we are. All 6. And here is how they look as a simple daily routine. Cinnamon in warm water before your largest meal. Fenugreek seeds soaked overnight and taken before breakfast. Apple cider vinegar diluted in a full glass of water before you eat. Berberine capsules with meals, if your doctor agrees. Bitter melon juice in the morning, if you can find it. And okra water waiting for you on your kitchen counter every single night. None of these replace your medication. None of them are miracles. But together, built slowly and consistently into the routine you already have, they represent something your last doctor's appointment almost certainly did not give you. Real options. Backed by real science. Available to you right now. And here is what I want you to sit with as this video comes to an end. You did not come here today because everything was fine. You came here because something has been worrying you. Maybe for months. Maybe for years. And you have been doing your best inside a system that handed you a prescription, printed a sheet and sent you home. Today was different. Today you heard about 6 things that exist outside that system. 6 things that researchers have studied, documented, and published. 6 things that were always there, just never passed on to you. That is not a small thing. That changes something. If this information has given you a sense of hope, or a new tool for your health journey, please like and share this video with someone who needs to see it. I genuinely value your feedback, so leave your thoughts or questions in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you want to stay informed with more content like this, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you are always the first to know. Think for a moment about someone in your life who checks their numbers every morning, and carries that weight quietly. Someone who sits in waiting rooms and leaves with the same answers every time. Someone who deserves to hear this too. Share this with them. Not because it will fix everything. But because knowing your options, really knowing them, is the first thing that was missing. And now it is not. You came to this video with a number that worried you. You are leaving it with 6 things you can actually do about it. That is not nothing. That is everything. Use it.